Yes, sir. Back halftime. Phil Elson is catching the Breezy Airlines with the team going to Athens. The baseball team getting ready to take on Georgia on a 3-game series. It's myself and Maddie T in the studio, and we're going to be hanging out with Mr. Bill King here for this next segment. Mr. Bill King, how's it going today?
Hey, Matt, what's up?
Oh, man, it's a beautiful day. We've been having a lot of fun today on this show. Maddie T's been playing some good bumper music. How do y'all do y'all's bumper music? Do you kind of do that, or you got some producers that help you out with that?
We have one rule. Never play a cover of Talking Heads. That I just heard. That's the one rule. No, I'm kidding. I never even heard that before. I've heard the Talking Heads version of it, but
the Talking Heads was the cover version.
Yeah, the producers do it. I mean, if it's something that I don't like, I'll tell them. Yeah. But no, I don't mess with it.
Maddie T does a good job. He plays a lot of good covers here. He's fun, and we were talking a little bit about just something weird that you eat, and somebody had called in and said they ate a cricket. What is there any type of? Are you into any weird foods or anything? What's kind of the weirdest thing you eat?
I'll eat anything pretty much. Chitlins.
There you go.
And you get challenged, so you have to eat it, right?
Right.
That does challenge me. I try and be tough, and it's the gag reflex is hard. That's probably now. If you're saying eat, I don't search that out, but that's about the weirdest thing for me, to consume.
Yeah, I don't know if frog legs maybe for me, or some boudin or something.
Escargot, snail.
Yeah.
I like that though. It tastes good.
Well, Arkansas just had a series with the Tennessee Volunteers, and I was a little surprised Tennessee didn't win one. What were your thoughts on that?
This Tennessee team is surprisingly bad. And Arkansas obviously is a very good top 5 team, but their starting pitching isn't as dominant at all as we thought, based on last year's performance, which is the same 3 starters. Now, they replaced the Friday night guy, Dowell Loggains. Their hitting is not remotely what it was a year ago. They're not average defensively right now, and the catcher can't throw anybody out. I don't remember a moment where they've thrown anybody out. I don't know why teams aren't stealing on Tennessee basically every time they get on base. I don't even know why you play the game with them. And if you look at that dugout, Matt, they look deflated. I mean, there's no energy source.
The enthusiasm's kind of gone. They're flat. Yeah.
Yeah, but Matt, I don't know if it's gone. I don't know if it was ever there.
Right.
They lost their entire lineup. Now that's one of the reasons. But heck, some of them had them ranked number 1, top team in the betting circles to win it all. This team, I don't think right now, Matt, I don't think they even get invited to a region, much less have a chance to win it all. And Arkansas obviously has got a fantastic team. They do everything well, and so that was a mismatch. That was tough.
Yeah, there's a little, as they say, a little golf left. When I was looking at the top 5, top 6, really, and these SEC schools with LSU, Florida, Vanderbilt, Arkansas, South Carolina in the top 6. Now, do you think, is this a thing where all these teams will host a regional?
Yeah.
You think
so?
Okay.
I mean, who are you going to take? You're going to take Fayetteville away? Or the way South Carolina's playing, Nashville. I mean, Vanderbilt's back. Last year was a tough year for them. They're back. They may be the best team in the league right now. And they got to go to Knoxville. And got to remember, Tennessee swept them last year. So, A, they hate them anyway, historically. And, B, they want to get them back for last year. And Gainesville, I mean, that's the best hitting team in America. Baton Rouge is the best town, arguably, for baseball in America. I think they all get a spot.
I like it. I always think of David Price when I think Vanderbilt. Man, he was fun to watch.
He's from here, big 6'7" lefty from here.
Yeah.
Early in his career, I don't know if you remember, Michigan came here for a regional, and there's a kid, I can't even remember his name, who went to Vanderbilt's camp, but who was never offered by Vanderbilt. Walked off David Price to win the series and knocked Vanderbilt out.
Dang.
That was one moment, but
yeah.
I still remember that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So spring ball just got kind of finished up, and I was kind of looking around and checking some things out, and it seems like when I see Georgia stuff coming out, it seems like it's more off the field stuff. Do you think there's some distractions going over there that might play a part? And because they're going to have the talent, there's going to be some changes, but do you think they can three-peat?
I mean, you got to go back 100 years, but yes, can they? Absolutely, they can. They lost Bear Alexander, who was considered maybe the next D lineman.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
he had been a problem there. I think he was a distraction, and he was kind of a malcontent. And now he'll go somewhere and be a hell of a player. Don't get me wrong; he's got talent, but I think that was kind of a mutual good riddance thing. And they're losing they've lost 13 since the end of 22, and these are all guys that just looked at the depth chart, realized that it's not going to happen. And then there's a lot of rumors about Brock Vandagriff, a highly rated quarterback who's been there a couple of years now. And after the spring, they're not naming a quarterback, but there's talk that maybe he'll jump into Portland here before this ends. He'll be highly coveted, probably getting poached anyways right now. But no, they've got everything back. And they got Brock Bowers back, so they're in good shape.
When I look at that SEC East, Bill, I still think it's a top-heavy with Georgia and Tennessee. And I think South Carolina, they got some things going on that they might have a chance to compete. I don't know if anybody does compete. Is there any team is it still just Georgia and Tennessee out of the East and really just Georgia?
Probably. Now, it would take a night like Georgia had at Missouri, where you're jerking around, it's close, and Stetson Bennett, he
made plays when he had to, right?
Yeah, I mean, dude, you played quarterback. What's the quarterback's job? To fix stuff, right? To get out there and fix it. Whatever it is, fix it. And he fixed everything, right? I mean, and look, there's going to be whoever the quarterback is that takes over here at Georgia, he's going to be much higher rated than Stetson Bennett, but can he do what Bennett did in games, right? You can have all that
kind
ability,
of the intangibles, yeah.
Correct. And that guy had every intangible you could want. It would have to be a really off night. They got to go to Knoxville, but Tennessee's probably 9 or 10 win team perhaps, but I don't think they're ready to beat Georgia, and we saw that last year.
So I was looking at this LSU roster and looking at their team, and man, that Harold Perkins Jr., I think he could be the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, but that LSU team is just so talented. And you're looking at that QB position. Do you think their quarterback is going to be able to be more consistent? Because last year, man, he would be atrocious one week and then look like a world beater the next week.
Jaden Daniels really came on, as you mentioned. It was a struggle for a while. And I thought down the stretch, probably beginning with the Alabama win and all the way through to the end, he really played well. Mm-hmm. And he's a run-pass threat. He can do both. I think he's put on about 10 pounds, 10 good pounds. Harold Perkins played at about 205 last year, Matt, and obviously he was fantastic. One thing about Harold Perkins, though, is he was so light in the britches, a team that could bully LSU, like Georgia, could bully him. Mm-hmm. And he was he's the kind of guy that would make spectacular plays because he could chase anybody down. But you run right at that guy, and it's a problem for him. He's put on, I'm told, about 15 pounds. He's up around 220. So you need more lead in your britches at that position, right? And you're right. He could be easily the defensive player of the year in the league. He just needs a little more physicality at the point of attack. And from what I hear, that's happening.
Well, and Bill, we had a guy like that in a Tony Bua, and I don't know if he was as talented as that, but what you're saying is, and Coach did a great job. When you have a guy like that that's talented, you're able to kind of free him up and use other people because he's going to make the plays, and that's why he's so fun to watch.
Well, there's no question, and just while we're on it in the West, Alabama, man, a quarterback, the word out of there, Nick's not saying this, but they're not real confident. Ty Simpson, probably the incumbent, big-name recruit out of Jackson, Tennessee a couple of years ago, has not played all that well this spring, has not advanced. Jalen Milroe was kind of a one-trick pony as an athlete. He's a heck of an athlete. There's concern out of there. And there are some people who say Nick Saban ought to get into the portal. Now, right now, we don't have a real sexy quarterback, But if the quarterback at Coastal Carolina were to jump in, which he hasn't, or a Brock Vandagriff or somebody like that, I don't know if Nick will do it, but there's a lot of people that feel like he should.
Yeah, that's wild. It's always we had a caller call in too. About the Texas deal going down there and Archie Manning. I'm trying to think what's his whatever the Manning name is, but is he going to
Arch? Yeah, Arch. Manning.
Yeah, is he? Yeah. And then so is it a 3-head race there? And as a true freshman, man, I know if you're talented, it's still tough to come in there as a true freshman and start. And I imagine at a place like the University of Texas, those other quarterbacks are probably pretty good too.
Quinn Ewers is a former number 1 ranked player in America, and he's going into what would this be? I believe his 3rd year. Mm-hmm. Anyways, he's the quarterback. He has probably more. He may have more talent than Arch Manning. He's one of those guys that has all those arm slot angle throws. He's a little bit of a rebel, He's got that in him. I think he shaved his mullet, but he's a guy that can be really good if he's right. This last year he was inconsistent, but he's got to be the quarterback. Arch Manning is incredibly raw, and a lot of people are bashing him because of the cut-ups from the spring game. That's not fair, but that kid's not ready. Arch Manning is not ready, and I don't think, Matt, he's even competing for that job right now.
I got you. Yeah, and it's okay, man. It's this weird myth that you got to be ready coming out of your first year of high school, and it's not always that way. Yeah, get there and learn a little bit. And I do want to ask you about. I'm a Josh Heupel fan. Ever since he was a quarterback at Oklahoma, how do you got Tennessee going this year?
I think they're a 9 or 10 win team. I think they've got to play at Alabama. Georgia's going to be tough. And, they'll probably be favored in the other 10. Now, as you know, just because you're favored in those other 10 don't mean you get to win them all, right? I mean, you may hit a bad day somewhere there. So I would conservatively estimate 9 or 10 wins. Joe Milton's a quarterback, but they have Nico Iamaleava. You've heard me talk about him out of California, who is off the chart talented. And the perfect world, Milton keeps that job. And then you kind of tutor for a year, or he comes in if Milton's injured, and Milton plays well. That's the perfect scenario. Now, how often do you get that? Milton has been inconsistent his whole career at Michigan and the time he started at Tennessee before Hendon Hooker took over. Nico Iamaleava will take over at some point, maybe this year, and you're going to see a 6'6" kid. He's only about 205 right now, who is absolutely dynamic in anything you want, any way you want to do it.
Yeah, there's just so much talent up and down this SEC. Phil and I were talking about how the talent in the it's not just a football conference anymore, because there's so much talent in the baseball side as well. But yeah, man, that you look at it like A&M was 2-6 last year, and all the things they got going for them this year. Is there any way they're 2-6 this year, or are they going to be closer to the top half of the SEC West?
Based on players, they ought to be in the top half,
right,
for sure. And they've got that young quarterback who they really like, and he took over last year, Connor Wegman. They've recruited well. There's some players in the portal, but that's everybody, right? And Jimbo, frankly, I've never bought into he could be in trouble. But if they jerk around and they're around 6-6 this year, I think he's in trouble. I will believe it this time. They can't have that happen again.
I'm with you. I think A&M out of the West is the team to watch out as far as sleepers, and I think South Carolina out of the East, if you can call them a sleeper, I think those are the teams that have a chance. Other than that, that LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, I think the top dogs are going to be there this year. Bill, man.
The thing about
go ahead. Yeah.
South Carolina, but no, I'll give you just 5 seconds. I know you got to go. But Spencer Rattler really turned it around. I'd given up on him, and he played well late.
Yeah, I think Dowell Loggains, I know Dowell Loggains really well, and he loves ball and what he does with the quarterbacks, and he was a big part of my success here when I was back 20 years ago, so I know it's going to benefit Spencer really, really well, because Dowell's just, man, he speaks the language, Bill. Some guys speak the language, and he's one of them that does it.